The story of Genesis is a following of the half of the house of David that were not allowed in the garden. The first testament of the Bible, in fact the whole Bible, is a history of this Jewish race. If read with this understanding, it would become clear. Those who have no Jewish blood in their veins are actually following the laws and commandments given the Jewish race because of the experiments the Space Brothers wanted to conduct. The experimental garden was helping. The huge animals had already been taken care of before the restructuring, so there were no longer any large animals. The spacemen introduced fire and the wheel. Fire was an awesome thing to men at this time. They were, of course, frightened by it and held it in awe and fell down and worshipped it when they saw it. It would literally incapacitate them until finally, through many hundreds of years, they learned to use it. Try to picture teaching a cat nowadays not to be afraid of fire. The period of low tide on the Red Sea was a time of drought and famine in Egypt. The crops wouldn't grow, the waters dried up in the sea, and the fish lay dead and stinking on the shores, causing disease. Many tried to eat the dead fish because they were starving. They became ill and died. It was truly a time of terrible trials in the land. The spacemen knew that they had to get the people to greener pastures, the biblical 23rd Psalm. They convinced the people that they would be better off in the land known as Sinai because of its fertile valleys where the new crops could be grown more easily. They knew that they could never get the people into the spaceships because of fear. They decided to guide them with smaller ships that are stored under the big motherships, similar to lifeboats on ocean-going vessels. They led the people there at night using lights which the men thought were fire. When they came to the Red Sea, the water was at an all-time low, and there was a sandy bar 3/4 of the way across. The spacemen sandbagged, so to speak, the rest of the way, so that the people could walk the whole distance across. By sandbagging, I mean just that. The use of some bags filled with sand was enough to dry up a ridge through the center for the people to cross, the biblical parting of the Red Sea. Once on the other side, they were left again with adequate seed for planting to fend for themselves. They had to learn to stand on their own. Remember, the help came from Venus on this 6th day, and these spacemen eventually pulled out from the garden. They had found a leader for these people, biblical Moses, but like a wise parent, the spacemen knew that they had to let this child grow and learn and discover and do or not do things on his own. They couldn't stand over him and give him orders constantly, saying this is not right and that is not right and so on. These children had to experience and experiment by themselves. So the spacemen decided to pull away and see what would happen. When they left, they knew they would be gone for a long period of time. This is when they left orders or guidelines for Moses to help his people, the biblical 10 Commandments. They were universal laws, worded in a more simplistic manner. When the ships left, they did not return for 300 years, during which time Moses and his people faced all sorts of problems from nature. Some they brought on themselves by not treating the land with respect. Planting the same crops over and over in a field depleted the nutrients in the ground. Some they had no control over, such as a locust. There was one piece of knowledge that would most likely help humanity in their understanding of our origins. This knowledge is the fact that the captain, the biblical Lord referred to in these early books, was not the same captain as the one in later books. This first captain did what he had to do in the beginning to follow up on the experiments of the artificial inseminations with genes from his planet. He did this in a firm, loving, and kind way in the beginning. But then it went to the point where he enjoyed making these poor folk cringe and bow down before him. This first captain misused his powers as far as having complete control over these people. He was removed as captain of the fleet, and the Space Fathers reappeared with a new captain in charge. Of course, the poor simple folk did not realize the difference between the first captain and the second, because there was a long period of time before a return was made. The people feared this new captain because of the stories and tales passed down about the first captain. The new captain tried to change the image the people had of the one they called their Lord. He tried to change this into an image of a loving father. He's been trying ever since to undo the harm to the people of his planet caused by the first captain toward the end of his mission. I believe this piece of knowledge can help unravel some of the discrepancies passed down through history. The new captain of the fleet, the biblical Lord, made several appearances at that time. He did glow with light. He glowed as we today cannot glow, partly because of the pure atmosphere then, combined with his electromagnetic field, his energy. Also, he amplified his voice, biblical references to the Lord speaking. This was done by an electronic encoder that transformed the language of the captain, the biblical Lord, into the speaking language of the people, who at that time also used a partial sign language. Another new captain of the spaceship will arrive soon to change the image of the last captain of the ship, the biblical Jesus. This last captain, Jesus, wanted to come down and walk the land with these people who were the results of his forefathers' experiments. He felt that they had not been given enough help at that time. The whole experiment was similar to breeding a superior strain of horse or other animal that is done now. It is still going on. Other planets bred other races. There were more experimenters coming in from other planets, artificially inseminating other tribes of the same two-legged animals that those from Venus were experimenting with. The American Indians were evolved at the same time as the experiments in Israel, only by ships from the planet Sirian. Thus the red-skinned race, as this was the color of those from Sirian. The other races were also evolved at the same time from ships from other planets. It was a well-planned experiment, but went awry in one sense of the word, as there were to be 7 experimental spots on the planet at the same time. Only 5 of them responded. Life started at these 5 preordained spots on the landmass. There is a gap in where the other 2 brothers did not respond to the plan. Life in these 2 areas, present-day Antarctica and Africa, did not evolve as fast due to lack of insemination experiments in the early stages from the 2 brothers who did not respond. They were helped in later experiments, but are behind in evolution. This help came from the same planets, Pluto and Orion, that helped before, thus the black Atlantean and the black African, and the yellow Chinese and the yellow Eskimos. Therefore we have the brown race, if you care to call it that, the red, the yellow, and all shades in between. It takes an intelligent, reasoning mind to follow the intricate thread woven through the pattern of life. Try to visualize a floor-to-ceiling woven hanging. Starting from the floor, we find the struggle in the mineral kingdom of crumbling rocks and wind-driven grains of sand. This bottom layer of the weaving won't have much variety of color in it, but will be beautiful in its own way, with subtle shades of grays and tans and brown and black, and varying degrees of the whiter water woven throughout in a churning, shifting pattern. Water is the life-giving ingredient for the incubation period in all kingdoms. As this mating with water takes place, the delicate colors of the botanical kingdom will begin to be interwoven with the grays and browns of the mineral kingdom. The blending in of the delicate shades of green from the botanical kingdom will then be accompanied by all colors of the rainbow as the flowers take form and bloom. Our tapestry takes on great beauty when the patterns and movements of the botanical kingdom are added to the patterns and movements of the mineral kingdom. There is constant movement and conflict wherever atoms are present. These atoms can be pictured as hyperactive because they are constantly in motion. When once again the mating with water takes place, this time with the botanical kingdom, which has absorbed some of the mineral kingdom, conception takes place and a new form of this atom, this hyperactive molecule, is found in the biological kingdom. A very slow start is made with a single-cell atom forming a single-cell amoeba, the simplest form of animal life. When this mating is accomplished, the tapestry weaving begins to settle into a more stable pattern. The wildly flowing lines of the mineral and botanical kingdoms settle down as they are absorbed into the biological form of the hyperactive atom. The tapestry now begins to change patterns over a much slower time span, as the one-cell amoeba developed into as great a number of species as did the botanical kingdom. The many varieties of biological life forms came about because of the variations of each previous kingdom being absorbed into the following kingdom and multiplying the beauty, talents, uses, and abilities of the following kingdom. The biological kingdom now composes a large area of our floor-to-ceiling tapestry. Then enters a shower of fire as the Creator God released his divine sparks, bringing about the true beginnings of human. The fire shower is when the tapestry really comes alive. The coloring of the forms that mate with this fire become more beautiful. As the fire showers continue, the tapestry is now becoming very beautiful indeed. It still will not be complete until the weaving in of spirit is accomplished. Then the tapestry will be ethereal. The shower of sparks continue coming to earth, and those sparks who have progressed enough must leave earth and return to the lightning bolt, the oversoul, that is still waiting in the upper planes for all the sparks to return so it can move on to the next planet. All is constantly in motion. When will it all stop, all end? I know not the answer to this, only to say that it will not, it cannot. This is evolution.